Hello, and welcome to Ideas with Diana, episode 710 on September 11th, 2024. Although today is a day where we honor those who died during the September 11th, is also a day after the debates to talk about an important concept. Today I'm going to talk about why rent control does not work. Many people think, and even a friend of mine saw, well, vote for Kamala Harris. Rent control works. She's gonna lower rent. And I explained to my friend, and after I explained, she said, I didn't realize it. I said, yes, lowering rents is a good philosophy. Yes, but the problem is rent control is not the way to do it. Here's the problem with rent control. My family owned an apartment building in Kenosha from 1921 to 1985. When World War II came and land control was issued in Kenosha from 1942 to 1952, we owned one apartment building, owner occupied. We lived in one apartment and rented out the other three. We almost went bankrupt as well as many other small time apartment owners went bankrupt and were almost taken over by corporate complex owners. And it almost forced my dad not to be able to go to college because of rent control. Here's the reason why, because what happened was when rent control was proposed in Kenosha in 1942 and ended in 1952, just to provide information, World War II ended in 1945, but the war controls were not lifted in Kenosha until 1952. So when I went to junior high school, it's common for many kids when the history professor talked with us, he asked, he says, "What year did World War II end?" Many people would say 1948, some would say 1952. Why did they say that? Because basically that's when the war controls ended. So many people in Kenosha who were under war controls or war workers, as a good friend of mine, what his father was, um, they were paid wages of 1940. Yet by the time World War II ended, wages increased significantly. So they were basically, even though working full time, they're in poverty, and even small time apartment owners were in poverty because basically they were losing money on the apartments because but while newer gentrifiers and carpetbaggers that could move it at that time could build new buildings and charge a higher rents. So what happens is basically, luckily Kenosha was wise enough to drop it, but other communities also took a long time to drop it, like Lake Forest and Illinois did drop war controls until 1948 because a friend of mine, his father worked as a war worker from 1942 to 1948 at the marine company that paid up years, even though he was a horticulturist. And what happened was basically, um, this shows that basically why things like grant control and other types of government, because what happens, they extended way too long and they cause way too much damage. A practical example. Are you aware that it costs more to live in Boston than an apartment in New York or LA? Yeah, it does. And the main reason it does is because of rent control. Boston had rent control starting during World War II, and they never ended it. And some people say, well, that's great. I got my rent locked in. I'm tied in. Well, okay, that's fine. But what happens eventually when the owner of the building says, well, some gentrifiers come in and say, well, look, we can take this building off your hands for you and other stuff. What do? They move all the poor people out, they move all the black people out, they move all the rent control people out, they put in the people who are living off other people's money. And then it's exactly like socialism. Once they run out of other people's money, that area becomes a slum. Gangs move in, and also what happens during that process when basically the government can't manage the rent control projects, they turn it over um, private corporations do everything as a complex. That's why there's so much homelessness in LA. Everything is complex. When you move, you don't have a landlord. You actually rent from a corporation. And in New York, in some places in New York, if you fall behind on your electric bill, heaven help you. Got to have them sign a special piece of paper to make sure that you're a good credit list to get an apartment with these special areas that are under special control. That's why rent control and this type of control never works. The other thing though is what happens rent control when people do run out of living off other people's money in these special gentrified in Carpetbagger areas, like what's happening in Kenosha right now, the next step is that they become a slum. Then they become gang infested. And why do they become gang infested? It's a natural manifestation. The gangs form because basically people don't want to be treated as they say, well, I'm sorry, your usefulness is no longer needed, so we're going to send you to junkyard. You don't send people to junkyard like you send cars to be scrapped or something else. And so what do the people do? They have a right to survival. They have a right to exist. So gangs form. And what happens, these gangs form a lot of times with consent because basically it's the only way that they can fight back against basically the corporate greed and the gentrifiers. Now, the thing is, I'm a conservative Republican, but yet I don't support the Democrats on this because I know that people think, well, oh, the Democrats are always for the people. No, not in land control, they're not. When you look at the areas that have the most abuse, the highest homelessness, they are controlled by Democrat elites who run these buildings. So when they talk about going against Donald Trump, what happens? I actually support Donald Trump because Donald Trump was the one who actually fought these in New York. And that you got people stay in this building that fell behind their bed, and that's what we did. We let them stay until they could get back on their feet. And also he did other, but what happens when you hear them spin the story, no, these uncontrolled Democrat elites and these carpetbaggers, as I call them, or gentrifiers, you will like it because basically you may think, well, oh, they're never going to come after me. I'm a good Democrat. I'm true blue. I vote, and I don't listen to Republican channels. And well, what happens? Guess what? It's not about fealty. It's not about any type of loyalty. It's all about the mighty dollar to the Democratic elite. Well, not even a story. Nope, you don't have enough. So we found this other couple that's willing to overpay for this building, overpay for this apartment, and goodbye, good luck. We'll pay for you. Yeah, really, crocodile tears. So just be careful of this. So please listen. The philosophies may sound good, but you got to ask how is it going to be done in addition to how it's going to be paid for. And that's why I'm still supporting the Republican Party. I will vote for two Democrats locally in Wisconsin because we still have the right to split ticket. Thank God. And what happens though, but overall, as far as president, I'm still voting for President Trump. Let me know what you think. The best way to reach me is on X at Diana1A or leave comments in the comments section of this podcast. Well, I'd like to hear you say, please think. Rent control is the worst thing to do. There's other ways to take care of this. I'd be glad to share this, but what happens right now, I'm living in a poverty trap, so I need to be paid too. So what happens if some organizations willing to come and pay me, I'd be willing to consult for you and do it. But I'm living in a poverty trap, and I want to get out of it too. So again, if you want to reach me on Diana1A on X or comments in the YouTube video. Thank you again for listening, and this has been Ideas with Diana.